Hello, guys. Good morning. Happy Monday morning to you all once again. Thank you for coming back to listen to this episode, and I hope you're going to enjoy this episode. So, yeah, I'm Tamarflourish, and we are here for episode 3 of the Young and Sane Podcasts. Welcome, you guys, and if you're new here, please welcome to the family. Join us, follow this podcast on Spotify or any other listening platform, and let's stick together and get into what we have today. Now, a lot of us as young adults, as youths, as young minds, young individuals, over time we may have looked on, the training our parents gave to us, how they try to instill discipline, how they try to do this and do that, in our formative years and all that. And we most times compare it to maybe what we see these days, or what we've seen in other households, as at those times. And the thoughts that will always come into our hearts is, I wish I was raised this way instead. So we're going to talk about that today. Most of us, we are raised by parents, who had no clue about what they were doing. So at each stage in the lives of our parents, they got married, young people in love or whatever, maybe arranged marriages. And the way they trained us, was like they got into, pregnancy, childbearing, child upbringing, and it was like they had no clue of what they were even doing. Like, they had no idea what they were doing. They just know that they were trying to raise children. And for some of our parents, they try to mirror the way their parents trained them, and so it's like a circle of broken people trying to raise a new generation. Most of them were not raised really right, in the African mentality, quote unquote, or African way of upbringing, or child upbringing. Most of it were not really ideal because of the kind of formative patterns that they kind of shut off in our lives or opened us up to while we were young. And even our parents too, the way their parents trained them, what they were opened up to, or what was shut down in their formative years. And so it's like a circle of a circle of doing things in the wrong way, or doing things in a dysfunctional way. And it's majorly because there's vast amount of knowledge now, so there are so many things that were not known at then, so many things, so many ways that our parents trained us, or the parents of our parents trained them. And one particular or constant way of training a child in those days, and even our parents too took up those patterns, was using verbally abusive words. Like, verbal abuse was kind of rampant, just kind of a norm, you get. And so that was how our parents were raised, and then they raised us the same way, the same pattern of verbally abusing the children. Maybe they make mistakes or just whatever, so many things. So it's like our parents were broken people, kind of, in their own way. Probably they had one or two things that were not really right, and then our parents also got those, and in their minds or in whatever they felt like this was the best way that we were going to raise our child, just the way that our parents raised us, in with insults, with beating, physical abuse. There's a way you flog a child and it will be correction or discipline, but when it crosses the threshold, like trying to put pepper in the anus of the child, like trying to flog the child to the extent that every part of his or her back has a scar or a wound, or even you see parents using knife to slice the skin of their children just because they want to instill discipline. And we think that all those methods of bringing up children were kind of right or normal or okay in the African society, but truthfully, those patterns of bringing up children actually inflicted harm on their emotions or soul, or in just whatever category. If you take a deep dive into how they felt about those things, it really didn't produce a positive outcome or result, or just whatever you can call it. So now, in our generation, we as young individuals, we as young adults, how did our parents contribute in raising us to be able to be sane in all aspects of our lives? Did they dump their garbage and trauma, maybe trauma reactionary patterns or trauma responses on us while raising us? As children are prone to make mistakes, and so a lot of parents, I don't know, I grew up having that mindset, like, why will my parents want to take me as an adult? I'm just a child. I don't know much. I'm prone to make mistakes. And the best you can do is to tell me the right thing to do, the correct thing to do, and not trying to shout me down or insult me or call me foolish or call me whatever name that pleases you, because I didn't meet up to your expectation. I'm not an adult, I'm a child. You get? So these were the questions I had in my mind while growing up, when we went through whatever pattern of discipline or whatever, and most times those disciplines were just too brutal for the amount of wrong that was committed. For me, it wasn't like commensurate. Most of them were not commensurate. It felt like physical abuse most of the times. When someone does something wrong, you flog the person and say, this is why I'm flogging you, because you did this. But this one, someone did something wrong and you're flogging the person. I'm flogging. And sometimes it's not even because the child made a mistake. It's because you actually misunderstood the intent of the child, or I don't know, there are just so many nuances to how we are raised that kind of messed up with my head and made me begin to wonder, why would our parents actually take us as adults? We are children. We are not the same with you. We don't know what you know. So why do that? So these are the things I grew up, and one of the questions I also ask is, would our parents have done better if they knew better? Sometimes I don't blame them, because they trained us and they did what their best based on the knowledge they had and what they were exposed to at the time. And so it's a common saying, or people usually say this, that parents grow. It's a common saying that parents grow along with their children, and it is according to how much they know that they will be able to perform to the best of their abilities. So truthfully, I think this is actually the fact. In the early stages of childbearing and parenting, our parents would usually not know much, and so they may not be able to do much, at those early stages of child upbringing. It's maybe after they've trained the first, the second, and they've seen, maybe a pattern of wrongs, or they grow along with their children, and so probably in the years to come they know better and they begin to do better. You see that I feel like sometimes they begin to like those things that they actually took very seriously when they were raising the first child or the second child, they actually lessen up for the third or fourth, and most times when they now get to the last born, it's usually very messy because it's like parents now begin to take for granted every kind of discipline they try to instill on the firstborn, secondborn, that way, first daughter, second daughter, now begin to lose it on the last one and begin to spoil the child. So there are just so many nuances to this, and yet sometimes we young people just fall into this pattern of thinking that I wish I was raised this way. Like as you begin to grow and this is how this thing affected me. This is last week we talked about how most of the beliefs you have were as a result of how you are trained even during your childhood, formative years, and yada yada. So when we begin to grow up and get knowledge about certain things and how certain things were supposed to play out, how certain things were supposed to be done, because since they were done this way, they shot this part of us, they made us believe this thing that was not true, and all those kind of things. So we begin to think, I wish I was raised this way, I wish I was raised this way, I wish I was raised this way. So the result of bad parenting on children, growing children, adolescents, teenagers, young adults, and so on, is the grooming of negative patterns on the child's growth and exposure. So most times bad parenting or mistake. So the result of bad parenting on children, adolescents, teenagers, young adults is the grooming of negative patterns on those children's growth and exposure. And so bad parenting, not like our parents were bad people, but the limited knowledge they had about certain things that they did that were impacting us negatively, impacting our growth, impacting our experiences, impacting our exposure. Certain things that were impacting our growth experiences, our exposure, our beliefs, our preferences, just our personality types or traits. So those things that they were doing that were negatively impacting us, not because they intentionally wanted to do that, but they didn't know better. Most of them didn't know better, and so those patterns of parenting brought about negative patterns that we as young adults in this day and age, we now have to begin to reparent ourselves, re-educate ourselves, awaken the awareness in ourselves that we need to do better in this aspect, or become better in this aspect, or look here, this made you become this or like this because of this, how your parents trained you, and you now have to begin to do better. So but some young people now begin to resent their parents, when we have this mindset, I wish my parents raised me this way instead. We begin to resent our parents, and then even some children at those early childhood stages begin to resent their parents because of how their parents trained them, or just the bad parenting styles and all that. So my sister told me a story about this family she stayed with, and they were really, really not um it's not like they didn't care for their children, but they were just so indifferent. Like, I cannot say they didn't care for their children and now say they are indifferent, but it was kind of that much of a confusing scene because they had money, they could take care of these children, but they cared less, like, about the children. All that the children mattered to them was just to cook the food in the house, wash their clothes, do what they wanted them to do. But apart from that, they cared less about the children. You know, you will not give your children breakfast. Your children will ask you for this, and you'll be like, you're not giving them. Not like the money was not there, but you didn't really care. And then the father was always listening to what the mother says, and it was like the mother was a wicked person, that she always wants to have her way, always wants to be heard, always trying to act wicked or disciplinarian. I don't know, a kind of disciplinarian or strict nature. And for me, I really think that she was just being wicked. Like, how would your children come to ask you for something very important as probably buying pad, girl children, or change of clothes, or very important things, and you deny them? Not because the money was not there, but why? So there are a lot of parents that are just and then it will result in your children having resentment, and these children have decided in their hearts what they are going to do to their parents already. Like, if they become independent from their parents, just a small space of independence, they have already vocalized it even to people what they are going to do to their parents and how much they hate their parents. So this kind of parenting style makes children to resent their parents. Another thing that children may suffer from is they may suffer from traumas like abandonment trauma. A lot of traumas, abandonment trauma. They may also develop the orphan spirit, like always feeling like I don't have a father, or I don't have a mother, or if I ask my father, basically feeling like strangers to their parents. Like, they can't ask their parents for anything. If they ask their parents for anything, they may not give it to them, they may deny them because of yada yada, all those kind of things. Or these children may even become deeply steeped in inferiority complex, identity crisis, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and extreme self-doubt. And I kind of had that in me while growing up. I had inferiority complex and low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and extreme self-doubt because of certain unintentional patterns that were exhibited by my parents. They loved me, they kind of tried to train me well, but certain things, like when you shout at a child with such intensity, like that child is your fellow adult that should have known the best decision to take, should have known the best approach to take, and you scold that child, like that child begins to lose confidence now. So it gave me this mindset, like I can't do it well. I'm not sure about myself. I don't think I can do this well. I don't think I can be the best in this, because I don't think I can speak well. I don't think I'm worthy enough to show myself here. I'm not up to these people. I don't know how to speak well. I don't know how to stand well. I don't know how to be fast enough. I don't know. All those self-doubt, extreme self-doubt. lack of confidence. These were the things that followed, those kind of parenting patterns. And these are just a few of them that I've mentioned. There are more and a lot. We are going to go deep into those when we start talking about trauma, holistically. I feel like this episode is more for the parents than the youths, but then it's good that the youths try to find out, okay, so why do I even have low self-esteem? Is it because my parents trained me this way? So that would be the aim of this podcast, to help open the eyes of parents to how they can better their parenting skills and abilities, not to create trauma in a child. So, you guys, if you've listened up to this point, make sure you share this to your people. Make sure you share this to your community, to your society, to your family, so that we can all know these things that, listen, parenting styles affect the mental health of a child. It does affect the mental health of a child. It does affect the confidence and the um status, the identity of that child. It affects it. We don't know this most of the times, and this is largely a problem because we all come from a family. Now, parents all trained us in different ways. So, the different ways that they trained us, each style that they used to have an effect, whether negative or positive, on our mental health today. And so, if you've listened up to this point, ensure that you share this to your family members, share this to the parents and then the young adults that are about becoming parents. Please, we need to know this. Yeah. So some of the solutions, it's a lot of parents are not really proactive. Now, I'm a Christian, and over time I've come to understand the place of being a proactive parent as a believer. So you're supposed to, before your child comes to the world, pray for that child. Pray for the entire lifetime of the child. Make sure you cover the child in prayer, not just when the child is born, not just when the child has been conceived, and even important when the child has been conceived, but even prior to that. Every person aspiring to be a parent, you have to pray for your child. So it's the proactive nature of parenthood. Pray for the child before the child comes. And then not just praying for the child, but when you now become parents, or before you become parents, preparing to become parents, there are tons of materials now that are available. Information is available on the internet, hard copy books, just whatever, soft copy books, e-books that have been written about parenting styles and how to better parent your children, to raise up mentally healthy kids, emotionally healthy kids. Read those books so that you don't become a stopper, you know, like a bottle cover on the expression of your child's fullest potential and destiny because of probably a negative parenting style or a bad parenting style that you may have picked up from your parents, or may have been something you believe in so much because of how you were raised, and you begin to raise this generation of children that are kind of different or unique in a way, and you inflict them with trauma and stop their expression of their fullest potentials and even destiny. So parents should not just rely on what they know about how their parents trained them, but they should instead turn to God and rely on God, who is the giver of children, to help them train these children in the way that they should go. So you don't exactly know all the stuff that there is to training a child, because each child comes with unique capabilities, each child comes with unique potential, and the fact that you are the mother of four children does not mean that your four children are exactly the same. They are four different people with unique personalities that are slightly different. So you cannot expect the way you train the firstborn to be the way you train the second one, and the way you train the third one, and the way you train the fourth one or fifth one, just because they were all born to you. You are the parents. No. And the truth is that you don't know the potential of the child as much as the giver or the creator of that child knows the exact stuff and the uniqueness he put in that child. So you are just essentially a guardian for the life of that child who has been committed to you. So you must just submit to God for wisdom, for knowledge, for guidance in on how to train the child in the way that the child should go, not the way you think the child should go, but in the way God designed that the child should go. That is exactly how you should train that child. And you cannot do that if you don't subscribe to the giver of the child, if you don't subscribe to the creator of the child who knows what he puts in that child to help you cultivate those things and not to shut them down because of your limited understanding or limited knowledge on what you have known over the years. And so these are just some tips, for our parents, you know, aspiring parents to know while raising their kids or training their children. And it's not too late to correct your parenting style. It's not too late to, adjust the things that you may have gotten wrong in training your child. It's not too late to do that. So for those of us young people, it's a call. This is a call for us to really dig deep into our, personalities, our patterns and behaviors, our minds, our hearts, dig into the past and try to figure out, okay, how is it that my parents trained me that impacted me positively or negatively? Just take note of it and, you know, so that you can itemize, what you need to change, maybe the beliefs that were instilled in you because of those parenting patterns or whatever, or what to change, what to become better at, what to improve on. Yeah, so that's it for today's podcast, and I hope you learned a thing or two. Please drop your comment below if this podcast was insightful, educative to you. I want to read your comments, and don't forget to rate us. Please give us a 5-star rating so that this podcast can also get to other listeners on Spotify. And ensure to share. Please share and follow us. Don't forget to follow us and hit your bell, like hit the bell so that you can get notified anytime there's a new upload release. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of this podcast. See you next week, Monday. See you next week, Monday morning at 7 a.m. West African time. Thank you. Bye bye.